We often talk about what to eat during the day, but what you eat before bed could be the difference between maintaining muscle or losing it while you sleep. Good evening. I'm Dr. Jason Fung, and today I want to address an overlooked aspect of health and aging, something that silently affects your metabolism, strength, and even longevity: muscle loss during sleep. Muscle loss, also known as sarcopenia, is a condition commonly associated with aging, but it doesn't occur solely because of advancing years. It's a multifactorial process influenced by lifestyle, hormonal changes, nutrition, and even sleep habits. One of the most underappreciated contributors to muscle loss is what happens overnight while we sleep. Contrary to popular belief, the nighttime period when the body is in a fasted, resting state is not always a purely regenerative time. In fact, for many individuals, especially those who are older, undernourished, or metabolically imbalanced, the hours spent sleeping can be a time of accelerated muscle breakdown. To understand why this happens, it's important to examine the hormonal and metabolic environment during sleep. Overnight, the body naturally shifts into a fasted state. After dinner, assuming no further food is consumed, blood glucose and insulin levels begin to drop. As energy from the last meal is used up, the body starts turning to internal energy sources to maintain essential functions. Ideally, this would include fat stores. However, when amino acids, the building blocks of protein, are in short supply, the body may begin breaking down lean muscle tissue to access them. This process, known as muscle catabolism, allows the body to convert muscle proteins into glucose through gluconeogenesis, especially if blood sugar levels fall too low. Adding to this catabolic environment is the release of cortisol, the body's primary stress hormone. Cortisol follows a diurnal rhythm, peaking in the early morning hours to help mobilize energy and prepare the body to wake up. While cortisol plays a vital role in circadian biology, it is also catabolic in nature, meaning it promotes the breakdown of tissue, including muscle, to release energy. When cortisol levels are elevated or poorly regulated, particularly in individuals with stress, poor sleep, or metabolic dysfunction, the rate of muscle degradation can outpace muscle repair. Over time, this can result in a net loss of muscle mass. As we age, this nighttime catabolic state becomes more problematic. Older adults experience anabolic resistance, meaning their bodies are less efficient at building muscle, even when protein is available. This makes nighttime protection of muscle tissue even more critical. Furthermore, aging is associated with decreased levels of anabolic hormones like growth hormone and testosterone, which help preserve and build muscle. With diminished hormonal support and heightened cortisol activity, the risk of sarcopenia increases significantly. Fasting overnight is not inherently harmful. In fact, it's a natural and healthy rhythm. However, the absence of amino acid availability during a prolonged fast, especially in older adults or those with low muscle reserves, may accelerate muscle breakdown. The longer the body goes without protein, the more it may begin to use its own tissue as fuel. For people who are already struggling to maintain muscle mass, this creates a vicious cycle: inadequate muscle protein synthesis during the day, followed by muscle protein breakdown at night. Other factors also contribute to this issue. Poor quality sleep, which affects hormone regulation, can lead to increased cortisol and decreased growth hormone secretion. Low physical activity during the day compounds the problem by reducing the stimulus for muscle maintenance. Inadequate dietary protein throughout the day means the body enters the night already short on the nutrients required to support tissue repair and preservation. To mitigate this nocturnal muscle loss, it is crucial to focus on dietary and lifestyle strategies that reduce cortisol levels, support hormone balance, and provide a slow and steady supply of amino acids through the night. This is particularly important for those at risk of sarcopenia due to age, chronic illness, or stress. Incorporating resistance training during the day, ensuring adequate protein intake, and potentially consuming a slow-digesting protein before bed are all strategies that can shift the body from a state of breakdown to one of repair during sleep. In summary, muscle loss during sleep is driven by a complex interplay of fasting, hormonal shifts, and nutrient availability. Understanding and addressing these factors can help preserve muscle mass, support metabolic health, and reduce the long-term risks associated with sarcopenia. Sleep is often viewed as a time of rest, healing, and regeneration, and in many ways that is true. During deep sleep, the body carries out essential processes such as tissue repair, hormone production, memory consolidation, and cellular detoxification. However, what's less appreciated is that sleep is also a catabolic period, meaning it can involve the breakdown of bodily tissue to meet energy demands, especially if the body lacks adequate nutrient reserves. This catabolism is particularly concerning when it involves lean muscle mass, which can gradually be depleted night after night if nutritional support is insufficient. When you fall asleep, you enter a fasting state. Assuming your last meal was a few hours before bed, your body no longer receives external sources of glucose or amino acids. This isn't necessarily a bad thing. Fasting is a natural part of human biology, and the body is well equipped to draw upon stored energy. However, how your body meets those energy needs, whether it taps into fat reserves or muscle protein, depends on several metabolic conditions. The first thing to understand is that blood glucose levels gradually decline overnight. For most people, glucose is the body's preferred source of energy. When dietary glucose is no longer available, the body turns to its glycogen stores in the liver. These glycogen reserves are limited, typically lasting only 8 to 12 hours, depending on activity levels and metabolic rate. Once glycogen is depleted, the body must turn to alternative sources, fat or protein. If the body is metabolically flexible and adapted to using fat for energy, such as in someone who practices intermittent fasting, follows a low carbohydrate diet, or exercises regularly, it will efficiently shift into fat burning mode, producing ketones for the brain and fatty acids for the body. In this case, the body can maintain energy balance without significant tissue breakdown. However, in individuals who are not metabolically flexible or who have poor dietary habits, the transition to fat burning is less efficient. As a result, the body may begin breaking down muscle protein to create glucose through a process called gluconeogenesis. This is where the catabolic nature of sleep becomes evident. Without sufficient amino acids circulating in the bloodstream or adequate energy from fat, the body pulls from its own muscle tissue to maintain blood sugar and energy for the brain and vital organs. Over time, especially in older adults or those who consume insufficient protein, this nightly muscle breakdown can contribute to sarcopenia, the age-related loss of muscle mass and strength. Sarcopenia not only affects physical performance, but is also linked to insulin resistance, metabolic syndrome, and increased risk of falls and fractures. Adding to this catabolic environment is the hormonal landscape during sleep. One of the key hormones that rises in the early morning hours is cortisol, often called the stress hormone. Cortisol is essential for waking up and mobilizing energy, but it is inherently catabolic. It promotes the breakdown of tissue to provide fuel. In a nutrient-deprived state, cortisol will encourage the breakdown of muscle protein into amino acids, which are then converted into glucose. This is a normal adaptive response, but when it occurs night after night without counterbalance, it can be detrimental to long-term muscle maintenance and metabolic health. Another factor is growth hormone, which is released during the first part of the night. Growth hormone promotes tissue repair and fat burning, but it requires the presence of adequate nutrients, especially amino acids, to support anabolic processes. Without those raw materials, growth hormone's regenerative effects are blunted and the body remains in a net catabolic state. Poor sleep quality further compounds this issue. Studies have shown that sleep deprivation or disrupted sleep increases cortisol, reduces testosterone and growth hormone, and impairs insulin sensitivity, all of which promote muscle breakdown rather than repair. When sleep is fragmented or insufficient, the hormonal environment shifts further toward catabolism. To combat this overnight muscle loss, it is essential to ensure the body has what it needs to protect lean tissue. This includes eating enough high-quality protein during the day, considering a slow-digesting protein before bed, managing stress to reduce excess cortisol, and prioritizing deep restorative sleep. In doing so, we can shift the nighttime balance from breakdown toward repair and protect the muscle mass that is so critical to overall health and longevity. During sleep, the body enters a natural fasting period, which often triggers catabolic processes where muscle protein is broken down to supply energy and maintain essential functions. This is particularly concerning for older adults, athletes, or anyone trying to preserve lean muscle mass. However, this physiological response is not set in stone. Emerging research shows that what you consume before sleep, especially the type and quality of protein, can significantly influence whether your body breaks down or builds up muscle overnight. By choosing the right kind of protein before bed, you can actually promote anabolism, the process of tissue growth and repair, and counteract the natural catabolic tendencies of the overnight fast. When you sleep, your body still requires a continuous supply of amino acids to carry out tissue repair, hormone synthesis, and immune function. If these amino acids are not available from dietary sources, the body is forced to extract them from your own muscle tissue. This leads to a slow, steady erosion of lean body mass over time, particularly in people who are under-eating protein during the day or skipping out on evening nourishment. Fortunately, consuming a small amount of protein before bed, particularly a slow-digesting form, can dramatically change this dynamic. One of the most effective proteins for this purpose is casein. Casein, a milk-derived protein found in cheese and cottage cheese, is known for its slow digestion rate. Unlike whey protein, which is digested and absorbed rapidly, casein forms a gel-like substance in the stomach, releasing amino acids gradually over several hours. This slow and steady release provides the body with a consistent supply of the building blocks needed for muscle repair and maintenance during the 7 to 9 hours of overnight fasting. Clinical studies have shown that taking 30-40 grams of casein before bed increases muscle protein synthesis overnight, particularly in individuals who engage in resistance training or are recovering from illness or injury. Another benefit of pre-bed protein consumption is its positive effect on nighttime hormone regulation. Growth hormone, which peaks during deep sleep, is a key driver of tissue repair and regeneration, but its effects are most potent when amino acids are readily available in the bloodstream. Eating protein before bed ensures that growth hormone can do its job effectively, stimulating the production of new proteins and supporting tissue maintenance. Without this fuel, the hormone's anabolic benefits are muted, and the body remains in a net catabolic state. Importantly, pre-bed protein does not need to be calorie-dense or carb-heavy to be effective. In fact, for individuals worried about blood sugar regulation or fat gain, a pure protein option like micellar casein powder mixed with water or unsweetened almond milk can be ideal. For those looking to improve both muscle retention and sleep quality, combining casein with magnesium-rich foods such as pumpkin seeds or almonds may offer added benefit. Magnesium supports deep sleep, reduces cortisol levels, and plays a role in muscle function, all of which further enhance the body's overnight repair capacity. It's also worth noting that the strategy is not limited to casein. Other protein sources such as Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, or even a small serving of lean meat or eggs can be effective, provided they offer a sufficient dose of complete protein. The key is choosing a protein source that is low in sugar and fat, digests slowly, and provides all 9 essential amino acids. The idea of eating before bed might seem counterintuitive, especially for those taught that late-night eating leads to weight gain. But this belief largely applies to high sugar, high carb snacks that spike insulin and disrupt metabolism. Protein, especially slow digesting protein, does not have this effect. Instead, it stabilizes blood sugar, supports metabolism, and encourages your body to focus on healing, building, and restoring tissue while you sleep. In summary, a small targeted dose of the right protein before bed transforms the overnight fasting window from a catabolic threat to an anabolic opportunity. It arms your body with the raw materials it needs to preserve lean tissue, support hormonal balance, and promote long-term muscle health. For anyone looking to age well, recover faster, or simply maintain strength and energy, pre-bed protein is a simple yet powerful strategy. The human body is in a constant state of flux between building up anabolism and breaking down catabolism. During the day, especially following meals and periods of physical activity, the body leans toward anabolism, repairing tissues, building muscle, and replenishing reserves. At night, however, during sleep, the body typically shifts toward catabolism, especially if no nutrients are consumed for several hours before bed. This is a natural part of our physiology, but if not managed wisely, it can result in gradual muscle loss, impaired recovery, and reduced metabolic health over time. One of the most effective tools to counter this natural nighttime breakdown is the strategic use of slow-digesting proteins, especially casein. Unlike fast-digesting proteins such as whey, which are absorbed rapidly and lead to a quick spike in amino acids in the bloodstream, Casein is known for its slow-release profile. Casein forms a gel-like substance in the stomach, which slows down gastric emptying and allows amino acids to be released steadily over a prolonged period, often up to 7 hours. This extended amino acid availability aligns perfectly with the body's overnight fast, helping to maintain a positive nitrogen balance and support muscle protein synthesis while you sleep. This steady supply of amino acids is critical because during sleep, the body undergoes various physiological processes that require protein. Tissues are repaired, immune functions are supported, and hormones such as growth hormone and testosterone, which play key roles in regeneration and muscle repair, are secreted at higher levels. However, these hormones can only work effectively if the necessary building blocks, amino acids, are present in the bloodstream. If they're not, the body may begin to break down its own muscle tissue to extract those amino acids, especially if the person is older, under stress, or has a low-protein diet during the day. Numerous studies have highlighted the benefits of casein before bed. One clinical trial involving resistance-trained young men found that consuming 40 grams of casein protein 30 minutes before sleep significantly increased overnight muscle protein synthesis rates compared to a placebo. The results demonstrated that even during an otherwise fasted state, providing a sustained amino acid delivery could maintain muscle anabolism throughout the night. This benefit is not exclusive to athletes. Older adults who naturally experience anabolic resistance, meaning they don't respond to protein intake as efficiently as younger individuals, also benefit from slow digesting proteins. For this population, overnight muscle loss is a significant risk factor for sarcopenia, frailty, insulin resistance, and reduced quality of life. Casein's slow digestion rate gives older adults the extended support their bodies need to preserve lean mass during the night when they're particularly vulnerable to catabolic processes. In addition to muscle preservation, casein protein has a low insulin response and doesn't cause significant fluctuations in blood sugar levels, making it a safe option for people with metabolic concerns such as prediabetes or type 2 diabetes. Its satiety-promoting effect may even help reduce nighttime hunger and snacking, which are often sources of empty calories and poor quality foods. Casein can be consumed in various forms. Micellar casein powders are the most concentrated and purest form, ideal for mixing with water or unsweetened almond milk before bed. However, natural food sources like Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, and even certain hard cheeses contain high amounts of casein and can also serve as excellent pre-sleep options. When combined with other beneficial compounds like magnesium or omega-3 fats, the recovery benefits may be even more pronounced. It's important to distinguish that not all nighttime eating is harmful. The idea that eating before bed causes fat gain is largely rooted in the type and quantity of food consumed, particularly refined carbohydrates and sugars. A small portion of high-quality, slow-digesting protein like casein has the opposite effect. It supports hormonal balance, protects lean tissue, and enhances the body's natural regenerative processes that occur during deep sleep. In conclusion, slow digesting proteins like casein serve a unique and powerful role in nighttime nutrition. By providing a steady release of amino acids throughout the fasting hours of sleep, they counter muscle breakdown, support recovery, and enhance long-term muscle health. For anyone aiming to preserve strength, recover more efficiently, or age with vitality, casein is a simple yet scientifically sound strategy to consider. When it comes to optimizing overnight muscle repair, the conversation often revolves around protein, particularly slow-digesting types like casein. While this is a critical piece of the equation, it is not the full picture. Recent insights into human metabolism and hormonal balance suggest that combining slow-release proteins with anti-inflammatory, low-carb fats, especially omega-3 fatty acids, can significantly enhance nighttime muscle preservation and repair. This combination works synergistically to create a hormonal and metabolic environment that supports growth, reduces inflammation, and protects against the breakdown of lean tissue during sleep. Sleep is a fasting state. As blood sugar and insulin levels drop, the body must switch to using internal fuel sources to maintain its energy needs. If nutrient availability is insufficient, particularly in the form of amino acids and essential fatty acids, the body will turn to its own tissues, including muscle, to maintain balance. While proteins like casein offer a sustained release of amino acids, adding the right kind of fat helps regulate digestion further, supports hormonal balance, and provides essential compounds the body cannot produce on its own. Omega-3 fatty acids, found in foods like flaxseed, chia seeds, walnuts, and fatty fish, such as salmon or sardines, play a powerful role in reducing inflammation throughout the body. Chronic low-grade inflammation is one of the silent drivers of muscle breakdown. When inflammation is high, it impairs the body's ability to synthesize new muscle proteins and can trigger the release of catabolic hormones like cortisol. At night, when the body is ideally repairing and recovering, an elevated inflammatory state can shift the balance away from metabolism toward catabolism. Omega-3s help to suppress pro-inflammatory cytokines, reduce oxidative stress, and support a more anabolic hormonal environment. In addition to fighting inflammation, omega-3s also influence the cell membrane structure of muscle fibers, making them more responsive to anabolic signals such as insulin and growth hormone. This is especially important in older adults, whose muscles often become resistant to these signals due to aging and chronic inflammation. Studies have shown that supplementation with omega-3s can enhance muscle protein synthesis in both young and older populations, particularly when combined with amino acid intake. The low carbohydrate aspect of these fats is also important. Consuming carbohydrates, especially refined sugars, before bed can spike insulin, which suppresses growth hormone secretion. Growth hormone, which peaks during the first phase of deep sleep, is essential for tissue regeneration, fat metabolism, and muscle repair. However, its activity is blocked when insulin is elevated. By avoiding carbohydrates and focusing instead on healthy fats alongside slow-digesting protein, the body is allowed to maintain a hormonal environment conducive to deep anabolic sleep. Moreover, fats like those from omega-3 sources help regulate appetite hormones such as leptin and ghrelin, which may support deeper sleep and prevent nocturnal hunger or glucose dips that can disturb sleep cycles. A more restful, uninterrupted night of sleep is itself a key driver of muscle repair, hormonal regulation, and reduced catabolic activity. Practically speaking, combining slow-digesting protein with anti-inflammatory fats can be simple. A pre-bed snack might include casein protein mixed with ground flaxseed, a serving of Greek yogurt with a few crushed walnuts, or cottage cheese with a teaspoon of chia seeds. These combinations not only provide a balanced macronutrient profile, but also deliver a slow trickle of amino acids and anti-inflammatory fatty acids throughout the night. The goal is not to eat a large meal before bed, but to provide a small strategic dose of nutrients that work with your body's natural rhythms to support repair, not degradation. This is especially beneficial for people trying to build or maintain muscle mass, improve recovery from exercise, or simply counteract the effects of aging. In conclusion, pairing slow-digesting proteins with low-carb anti-inflammatory fats like omega-3s creates an optimal metabolic and hormonal landscape for overnight muscle repair. This approach not only supplies the raw materials for muscle building, but also mitigates the silent destructive effects of inflammation and hormonal imbalance. It is a strategic, evidence-based method to preserve muscle, support recovery, and promote healthier aging from the inside out. When it comes to preserving muscle, improving recovery, and promoting optimal metabolic function during sleep, the conversation often centers on how many calories to consume or whether eating before bed leads to weight gain. But the truth is, the timing and quality of your pre-bed nutrition are far more important than the quantity. What you eat and when directly affects your hormonal balance, which in turn influences whether your body enters a state of healing and rebuilding or one of breakdown and inflammation. This isn't about calorie counting, it's about aligning your food choices with your body's internal rhythms. The hours leading up to and during sleep are when the body undergoes vital repair processes, muscle recovery, immune function, detoxification, memory consolidation, and hormone secretion all occur while you're at rest. That the effectiveness of these processes depends greatly on whether the body is supplied with the right raw materials and hormonal signals. Eating before bed doesn't automatically impair this process. On the contrary, it can enhance it when done correctly. However, the type and timing of that food matter more than simply how many calories it contains. One of the key hormonal players overnight is growth hormone, GH. GH is released in pulses during deep sleep and is a powerful driver of tissue repair, fat metabolism, and muscle protein synthesis. But this hormone's effectiveness can be blunted if insulin levels are too high at night. Consuming high sugar or high carbohydrate meals before bed can spike insulin, which suppresses GH release and shifts the body toward fat storage rather than fat burning and muscle building. On the other hand, consuming a low carbohydrate, high quality protein source before bed, especially one that digests slowly, such as casein, supports a more favorable hormonal profile. It provides a steady release of amino acids into the bloodstream without triggering a significant insulin response, allowing GH and other anabolic hormones to function optimally. This creates a metabolic state that favors muscle preservation and repair rather than tissue breakdown. The timing of nutrient intake also affects cortisol, the body's primary stress hormone. Cortisol levels naturally rise in the early morning hours to prepare the body to wake up and mobilize energy. However, if the body is underfueled, especially in terms of protein, it may increase cortisol levels earlier than necessary to break down muscle protein into amino acids for basic functions. A well-timed protein feeding before bed can blunt unnecessary cortisol elevations, helping maintain lean mass and prevent catabolism. It's also important to understand that the body has circadian rhythms that regulate digestion, metabolism, and hormone secretion. Eating large meals right before bed can disrupt these rhythms by forcing the body to prioritize digestion when it should be preparing for restorative sleep. But a small, precisely chosen nutrient dose, a modest serving of protein and perhaps some healthy fat can work with these rhythms rather than against them. This fine-tuning is not about calorie volume. It's about optimizing the quality and timing of nutrition to support sleep recovery and hormone balance. For example, a scoop of micellar casein in water or unsweetened almond milk provides long-lasting amino acid availability without overloading the digestive system. A few tablespoons of cottage cheese or Greek yogurt with a small portion of chia seeds offers a similar effect. These options are low in carbohydrates, high in complete protein, and rich in micronutrients that support muscle repair and sleep quality like calcium, magnesium, and tryptophan. Ultimately, what matters most is creating a nighttime internal environment that supports anabolism, the building up of tissues rather than catabolism. It's about feeding the body what it needs in the right form and at the right time so it can heal and regenerate. Pre-bed nutrition done properly is not a threat to metabolism or body composition. It's a tool for preserving muscle, balancing hormones, and enhancing recovery. In conclusion, it's time to move beyond the outdated notion that eating before bed is inherently harmful. When approached with intention, timing, and nutritional quality in mind, pre-bed meals can serve as a powerful intervention for anyone looking to improve their health, performance, or longevity. It's not about how much you eat. It's about when, what, and why.